good morning, and welcome to the International Mastermind Think and Grow Rich show. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist, and I am just so excited to come to you as one of the co-hosts for today as we talk about the book Think and Grow Rich, written by Napoleon Hill in 1937. And today, the focus is going to be on the principle of imagination. This is such an important principle because this is where you get in touch with the infinite, you get in touch with the universe, and you actually bring those ideas to life by leveraging your creative imagination as well as your synthetic imagination. So can't wait to get into this conversation. But I am not alone. I am here with fellow angels. So I'd like to introduce one of my accountability partners, a guy that I work with and talk to on a weekly basis, Dr. Peter James. Dr. Peter, come on in, man. How's it going?
I am doing fabulous on this Saturday morning there, Galen. Excited. Here's why I'm excited though, Galen, because if I can quote from Napoleon Hill, desire is thought impulse. Thought impulses are forms of energy. And when you begin with the thought impulse of the desire to accumulate money or any other object or desire, you are drafting into your service the same stuff that nature used in creating this earth. And I'll say the Lord used in creating this earth and every material form in the universe. Um, the Lord said, "Let there be light, Galen," and there was light. Galen, I'm going to speak into existence my future, what I am imagining beginning today. That's the type of mood I'm in, the energy I'm in this morning there, Galen. Excited to be here, excited to be talking with our phenomenal guest that we have here, who is no stranger to the show. But that's all the teasing I got right now there, Galen. So good stuff.
Well, fantastic, fantastic. And I want to bring in Miss Ann. And Miss Ann, I want to build off of something that Dr. Peter just mentioned. And we were talking about a little bit before we went live, and this idea that the universe activates on whatever we tell it. It really doesn't know the difference between fact, fiction, between joking versus reality. It just, whatever we think about, whatever we talk about, whatever we say, it gets busy trying to manifest and bring that into reality. And that's a big part of making sure that our imagination is in alignment with what we say that we want. Talk a little bit about how we activate that to make sure that we're doing it in alignment with what we really say that we want to do. So, Miss Ann, come on into the conversation. Welcome. You're on mute right now.
She's trying to figure out her mute
There we go.
button this morning
Yep.
there, Galen. What type of
Yes.
energy is Ann McNeil on this morning?
Listen, I'm excited for the question, but my response goes to the state. We talk about the imagination, but for me, it starts with the state of mind, if you will. So think about this. If you were to travel from Florida to California, you would change what?
Time zones?
Not a trick question. You would change states,
Oh, state. Okay.
right? From state to state, you would change states. But in order to travel from one state of mind, you must travel and change your mind. And as you know, shifting your mindset expert as you are, you know what that's like, and changing and shifting. So when we shift from one state, if you will, and I like to visualize it geographically, and moving from one physical state to another physical state, you've got to go from one place to another. Well, the mind is the same way. And oftentimes we don't take the time with the utilization of our imagination and tapping into the different forms of imagination to shift our mindset to change it from one state of mind to another state of mind using the imagination to get what we desire. And oftentimes those desires come from imagining that which we desire. Does that make sense? That makes sense. So going back to Galen's question, how do we go from the imagination to the actualization? It is a process. And the author does it very well when he first starts by explaining the difference between, synthetic imagination and creative imagination. But either way, you've got to go from one state to the other. And in moving from one state to another, either geographically or mentally, you want to learn how to change your mindset. So as we've discussed, having a wonderful day versus having a chaotic day versus having, a horrible day, to move from one state of mind, I'm going somewhere here, to a different state of mind, we must be conscious of the fact that it is nothing but shifting your imagination, how you see it. But the universe does not care and does not know the difference between one state versus the other state. It only knows what you tell it. And so when you're imagining these words like chaotic, like horrible, like, whatever negative term. Crazy. Oh, that's a good one. Crazy days or crazy life. The universe then begins with your imagination. It begins to draw to you like a magnet, more of whatever you say you want, or more of whatever you say you have, or more of whatever you say you are. That is why the power of the affirmations becomes so critical, that we recite and we write that which we desire. Even though it has not showed up yet, we say it in the affirmative as if it's already here. I'm having a great day. Somebody just wrecked my car. I'm having a great day. Somebody just passed away. I'm having an awesome day because I know that there's something that I'm going to learn from this. I'm not sure what it is right now, but I know, shifting my imagination from one state to another, I'm going to reveal what that is, or it's going to be revealed to me. So Galen, good morning.
Hey, that's a great way to get started for today. And that's a little sneak peek as to how this conversation goes, even before we go live to share with everyone else. But this is going to be an extra special conversation. It's going to be an extra special show because we've got a guest who is, boy, he's a regular. He's a regular in the studio. He's a regular on YouTube. He's just a regular. So if you've got someone that you believe needs to hear this conversation, you've got about 3 minutes to tag them, to tap them on the shoulder, to wake them up and get them to be a part of this, because we have as our guest today Mr. Donley Ferguson, who is a professional speaker. He's CEO of City to Inspire. He is one of the key people in the Think and Grow Rich audience. Donley, come on in, man. How are you doing?
I am doing marvelous. I'm having an exciting day. I'm full of energy. I'm ready to go. Let's go, y'all.
Wow. Well, hey, talk just a little bit about your bio, because we all know you here, but there are some listening who may not have had the opportunity to see you on one of the many times that you've been on the show already. So share just a little bit about your background and how you have come to be with us today.
My name is Donley Ferguson, as you already stated, and I am the purpose connector. What I've learned in life is that we all have a purpose. We all have a desire. We all have a thing that we were born to do. Now, amongst our lives, there are other things that we will accomplish, but my goal has been to find a way to help people get out of their own ways so that way they can get to the work that they're supposed to perform, either a process, a product, or a service that will benefit their city, their family, and the world at large.
It doesn't get more clear than that. It doesn't get more clear than that. Well, hey, we're going to get into this conversation, but I just, again, I want to tell you, if you are watching us via YouTube, make sure that you hit that subscribe and follow button. Also, if you're currently on YouTube, hit that thumbs up icon right underneath the video because that tells the algorithm that we're doing something positive here, that everything is not about Sean Combs, everything's not about all these other popular things that folks want to view on YouTube. We're actually going to be talking about something that's going to help you get from where you are to where you need to be. So hit that thumbs up button, and when DONLEY drops a gem, there's a little heart button over there in the bottom right hand corner. You can hit that heart. You can hit that 100. Just to let DONLEY know that he needs to keep going, he needs to keep sharing, he needs to keep dropping the gems as he will throughout this conversation. So you hit that over on the right, but hit that thumbs up button so that we can let the algorithm know that we are here, that we are thinking and growing rich. So with that, Dr. Peter, I want to come to you, man. To kick this off, I would love for you to set up this video about the 13 principles, how they come together, and how people can understand them at a high level, even if this is their first time joining us for this conversation.
Yeah, good stuff there, Galen. So for those of you who this is your first time watching, first time with the show, first time even just hearing a conversation that we're getting ready to have with DONLEY. This show, the backdrop of this show is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And if you've never had the honor of diving into this book, today is your day, because we're going to kind of give you an overview, but hopefully tease it enough that you'll want to go in and begin reading it for yourself. The backdrop of the book is 13 principles. These 13 steps, as we like to call them, in order to think and grow rich. And now, don't be deceived by the title, because it's not all about making money. It's actually more about that first word. How might you be able to think differently to accomplish whatever your goals and your objectives are? So give this video a listen. It allows you to be able to think differently about the book, but also get a great overview of what we're about to dive into, especially this imagination chapter, chapter 5 of the text. So thank you so much for listening.
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the mastermind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 feet from gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the wild, wild west days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
All right. All right. And there you have it. And before we get back into this conversation with Donley, I just want to acknowledge the folks that are joining us on YouTube, that are checking us out. Vincent Phipps, man, oh my gosh, haven't seen you in a while. Another fantastic speaker. Need to have you on the show. Shannon Charlton, thank you so much for being here. Melda Wallace, always in the chat lines. Yolanda Phillips, Laverne Blackwood, and Matt Osman. Thank you guys for being here. Definitely make sure that you hit that like, that you subscribe, that you hit the thumbs up, and that you tell a friend or two to join us. Let's get into this conversation with Donley. So Donley, lots of questions for you, but we like to start by asking, how did you become familiar with the book Think and Grow Rich? And then more specifically, how did this become more than just a book for you? Because I've got a number of books on my shelf, and most of the books I've read once. There are very few books that I read on an annual basis, multiple times through the year, and study and break apart the principles like I do with this. So when were you introduced to the book Think and Grow Rich, and when did it become more than just a book for you?
I found it interesting that we study that which basically gives us a little bit more advantage in life, something that yields a result. My entry to this particular book has taken a strange path. And I think you identified one of the people who helped me put me on that path. Vincent Phipps, who's in the audience today, congratulations, sir, put me on a path 2 years ago at an event for me to go and listen to the Black National Speakers Association. I went to this event. During this event, I was blown away. I found my tribe. I knew this is where I belonged. While I was there was a young lady with a red dress on and red glasses who happens to be on the panel today. And she gave a conversation about this book called Think and Grow Rich. I'd love to read. I'm going to understand it. I read a little bit. I was like, okay, this is a complex read. Then there was an opportunity for me to join a class and actually put the masterminding process into place. I joined that class, and for about 6 weeks or a little bit more, we went over every element of this book that we could during that particular time. And it was amazing. The results that I received from it, again, is what compelled me to continue the study of this book. Every day, those concepts come to life in something that I'm doing, even if it's not on a conscious level.
Love it. I love it. And I love the fact that you said we tend to study those books. We tend to study those philosophies that we believe will bring us some sort of value. Other than just being interesting, we study them. So I love that. Dr. Peter, I want to bring you into this conversation because Donnelly is really talking about not just reading the book, but putting the principles to work. And I know that that's something that you focus on a lot as well. What questions do you have for Donnelly?
Yeah, I would love to dive on into this imagination topic there, Donnelly. And I want to invite our audience also, listen, Donnelly's on the hot seat today, so we get to ask him questions. So if you got questions for Donnelly, also dive into the chat, ask him about this Think and Grow Rich, ask him about imagination. You know, Donnelly, before we started the show, we talked a little bit about speaking words into existence. And we spoke about how what we think comes out through how we say it or what we say, and how the importance of that as you reflect on your career, on your journey. How has the power of words, or even for that matter, your imagination, impacted who you are today and then who you're going to be tomorrow?
I've had the blessing, and I'm going to use that word now, blessing to be born blind, legally blind. And so all my life, I've had to perceive and see the world in a way that I can't even explain. It's a lot of pictures, it's a lot of images. So I've never had to stand and look the way that normal people look. And they say, look at that, see this, see that. I've never been able to do that. I've always found my own way of seeing. So when these processes come to light to me, they come in a different way, they come in a different vision. And it's built over the years. It's built, and it has allowed me to see the world in a different way, to perceive the world in a different way. And I recognize that we need to stop using our eyes at particular times and start to use this insight. And it all actually is built from the imagination. I see the imagination as a factory. If I had to show you this image, and it's got blueprints on the wall, and it's got dust, and it's got people in there working, and grease and oil. And what they're doing in that factory is taking these ideals and these concepts that you have, and they are hammering away. They're putting test projects together. They're testing, they're stressing it. They're seeing what works, because they realize, or the brain realizes, that this product, this ideal, this brainchild needs to get out into the world in a way where it can have some impact. They need to be able to do something with it. They need to be able to use it, to manipulate it, to make the world a better place, and to help us all become greater participants in this journey, in this creation.
Love it. Love it, Galen. I got to pass it right back to you, my friend.
Oh my gosh, we need to stop seeing with our eyes and start using insight. I mean, if you guys aren't writing that down, I don't know what else you're looking for. That's a gem right there. Miss Ann, we got another person who has come to this philosophy because they stumbled into a room and fell at your feet while you were talking about this. What questions do you have for Donnelly, and where can we, how can we deepen our understanding of how he leverages imagination?
I don't agree. You know, I am the contrarian on the podcast. So I don't agree that he stumbled in. I don't agree with that necessarily. And the reason that I don't agree that he stumbled in is I believe that which we desire is desiring us. I believe that through his imagination, from that factory in his mind, that he was desiring a tribe, and he was willing to say yes to Mr. Phipps and anybody else that would move him. Let's go back to the state. If you're in one state geographically and you choose to travel to another state, you must go there. If you're in Florida, you want to go to California, you got to get there. Now, you can get there in a car, you can walk, or you can take a Learjet. This philosophy is a Learjet, and many of us have been walking and crawling. And I believe that Donnelly, Mr. Ferguson, connected that desire that was already in his imagination.
Mhm.
You must have a dream, right? In order to have a dream come true. And he was willing to do some things. He was willing to change his state of mind by changing his geographical state from going to one place to another. And that one place physically was wherever he was when Phipps talked to him. And he had to physically come to, hint, hint, please join us at the influence for NSA. He had to physically come to the NSA influence in order to connect with us through Black NSA. Now, what was your question again, Caleb?
No, just what questions do you have for Donnelly to get us deeper into understanding how to leverage imagination?
Well, I think I already teed it up by sharing the fact that, in order to connect with imagination, you've got to act. I mean, we all have an imagination and dreams and desires, but are we willing to change the state of mind? That's what the book is helping us to do, and many other books, if you will. But are you willing to go someplace? So I'll go back to your question. And my question for you, Donnelly, is what were you desiring before, if you can remember back that far, what were you desiring before Phipps showed up, before we showed up? Because I think it's important for all of our listeners to know that the power of your imagination, let's take the story in the book about Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the pharmacist bought from the doctor a formula, but what he added was his imagination. And just by adding something and acting on it, Dr. Gonzalez, Dr. Gonzalez, for 2 years, he had been desiring $1 million. But it was not until he acted on it by sending to the newspaper an article saying, look, I'm going to do a sermon on what would I do if I had $1 million. And so I want to go back to the listeners. What are you desiring in your imagination that you may or may not been willing to act on? So let me come back to you, Donnelly. Prior to Phipps showing up, what were you desiring in your imagination that you may or may not have acted on yet?
To go back to talking about how I see the world, I see the entire existence as a tapestry. And I envision all of us to be individual threads. And I say the cosmic strength. So when I was a younger man, I had a desire to be useful. I had a desire to be obedient to my mother, to take the trash out, to wash the dishes when she told me to. As I continued to grow, I still had a desire to be useful, but it became a shape. I had a desire to learn how to interact with people, to make sure that we grew together, that we perceived the world together, that we participated in creation, like I said, in a meaningful way, where we could all benefit from everything that was here in creation. And even when I was meeting with Vincent, I had a desire to be useful. But what he showed me and taking me to that meeting is a even more narrow way that I could be useful. So though my desire was to be useful, what it eventually became is a desire to connect people with purpose. And that is the usefulness that I think that at this time in my life, I'm able to understand, to grasp, and to give. And I know that as I continue to grow, my purpose or my understanding of that is going to narrow even further. So the thing that I will be used for will be like a doctor's scalpel. It'll be more precise, and I'll be able to do it at that particular time. So now I connect people with purpose. I look forward to continuing to grow, to see what the next evolution of my usefulness becomes.
I love that. Thank you. I think we have a question in the chat also. So the question from your friend, Mr. Vincent Phipps, says, I know your leadership philosophies led to your being one of the top hospitality experts in America. What do you do when you see greatness in someone and they have yet to see it in themselves?
I think I take a piece of advice that I got from the doctor a while back, and I've added this. I've done it, but I've been more conscious of it. I don't really do much, and I'll explain that. What I do, and I do this every single solitary day, I have a concept that if I go into a room and I leave that space or that room unchanged, I have not made any difference in the world. I have wasted my time. So I make the attempt every single solitary day to go in the room and change something. Even if it's moving the furniture, even if it's saying, hey, your button's not tightened, or asking a question to stimulate some sort of answer. So the thing that I do is I become that person in the room who changes one little thing without looking for a real result from it. I move the chair, nothing great has to happen. I ask the question to the person who I see potential in, nothing has to happen. But the next day I'm going to ask another question, or I'm going to point something out, or I'm going to share with them something that I observed. I'm going to give them something to read. And each of those days build upon each other. And what I've realized and found is that people come to the realization of who they are. I got a gentleman right now. His name is Pablo. Pablo came to Atlanta on a whim to take care of his family. He left everything. And I said, you know what? That sounds like the Pablo principle. He was like, what is that? I said, well, you got to tell me. So what he's done is endeavored to tell me what that Pablo principle is, how a man can leave his family, his mother, and come to create something out of nothing, and how he can flourish in that particular environment. Those are the steps that I take. I just make minute interactions of myself into the space that I'm allowed to be in, and I do it on a consistent basis.
Wow. I know I'm not the host, Galen.
I love it. I love how you are making this principle practical. It's a practical thing. I want to read something that's actually in the book, and then get you to comment on this. It says, deeper in the chapter, it says, you can do it. It has been done before. You can build a fortune through the aid of laws which are immutable. But first, you must become familiar with those laws and learn to use them. And then the note that I wrote in the margin is, just because you might not be aware of those laws does not remove the laws.
That is right. That's a great point.
Right? Ignorance is not an excuse. So what's your process for gaining a deeper understanding of these natural laws that seem to govern our success, or they impact our failure, if you're not aware of them? What's your process for getting a deeper understanding of these laws?
I close my eyes. These physical eyes, I close them because I think to a point that you alluded to earlier, if not, I'll be watching Kanye. I'll be watching the rap battle. I'll be watching what's going on with other celebrities. And I'll be looking and applying those things that they consider to be laws to my life. I'll be chasing the bag. I'll be trying to be somebody. And when I do that, as I watch, I can't help but fall into those quote unquote natural laws. But that's not a law. That's a fad. That's a trend. You know, we'll all tomorrow watch 75,000 different people doing a dance. They'll be working their entire existence, their being, their energy into a dance. 75,000 different copies of the same dance. And it actually, in the end, doesn't give the value that that particular person has. Now, what it does demonstrate is that they can understand, they can see, they can do different things, and they have the courage to move forward. So those are great traits. But we have to close our eyes to these things that we consider to be laws and study. We have to think. We have to sometimes do things. Fail, succeed. Those two words, I think we said a little earlier, are the same word. Let's say that fail and success are the exact same word. It all depends on which side of the string you're viewing it from. But you have to make that effort with your eyes closed to the things that this generation, leadership, whatever you want to call that entity that is designing these particular laws, and you have to build on the precepts of life. They're very basic things. You can find them in the scripture. You can find them in different books and laws. But one basic principle, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. What am I going to do for you that I wouldn't mind you doing to me that is in turn going to benefit us? And the only way to see that sometimes is to close my eyes, to not see this world as it is, and to understand that regardless of the way that the world goes, I have to go the way that I know. And then whatever's in my power, I have to pull other people into that particular thing.
Wow. Wow. Talk about connection to scripture. Sounds like you're saying we've got to walk by faith and not by sight.
I don't have a choice, y'all. I'll be in a restaurant. I'll be like, what's on that menu? I can't see it. I'm at the crossroads. Sometimes I have to tap somebody. What's the name of that street? I can't see it. I walk by faith, not by choice. I don't know what's going on at times. I remember one time I was a small child. Friend of mine was screaming. I didn't know what he was screaming, but I was on the ground by his feet trying to catch a frog. He's screaming. I'm still trying to get this frog. I get the frog. I walk away. He says, "You didn't hear me hollering snake?" I was like, no, I did not. He was standing on a snake while I was trying to catch the frog. I had no idea. I walk in faith, not by sight.
Love it. Dr. Peter, man, you were referencing scripture earlier. Come on into this conversation.
Well, let's see here. Here's the thing, Donley and Galen, for that matter. We're human beings at the end of the day, right? And we are subject to the environment, to a lot of the not so positive things that are going on around us. Dare I say, social media, the television, the news, all of these things can seep into our subconscious there, Donley, in some form or fashion. How do you stay above board? And the reason I'm asking this is because we have audience members who are watching, and very similarly, listen, they're watching on YouTube, and on any given day on YouTube, you're getting whatever, a little bit of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How do you stay above board? What might we be able to learn from Donley that we can apply for ourselves moving forward as it relates to what the world is inundating us with?
I apply the law of sex transmutation.
All right.
What in the world? So all of those moments, those feelings, those emotions, you see a beautiful young lady, you see the energy from the Kendrick Lamar, the Drake battle, and you feel all of this energy and everybody's so creative. There's something that's generated. It's a very beautiful thing that's generated. It's energy, but we don't know how to transmute that energy that we receive into something that's creative. So, I mean, I know it's not the subject for today, but you have to apply the law of sexual transmutation. You have to take that energy because it's an energy. It's a sexual energy almost. It's almost like an eroticism. And you have to take that energy and you say, how can I become creative with this energy? So when you get that Kendrick, Drake, Lamar high, apply that to the work that you're supposed to be performing. Write that better article. Create that better post. Make sure that you go and find an ideal and write it down. There are things that you can do with that energy, and you should do with that energy. And we shouldn't shun the energy. We don't want to, put a cap on it. We want to use it, but we want to use it for something that's going to be beneficial to the purpose that we are supposed to enact, and not just disperse it into the world in general. That is the worst use of that energy. Now it's there. We all have to recognize it, and we have to utilize it in such a way that it benefits those who we are here to benefit. Those problems that we need to solve, take that energy and apply it to the problems that you're supposed to solve. And guess what? We might find some solutions just this week because all the energy we got, man, it's 1,000 sources, right? So many options. We don't know how many options or whatever he said. So we got the energy. Let's apply it to all of these different things that we have in front of us that we need to be doing for our cities and our communities.
So what I'm hearing from you though, Donnelly, is that not to necessarily shun everything that we hear or digest, but to apply it differently, strategically, focused. Is that what I'm hearing a little bit of?
You said it exactly. That's the exact way to say it. It's a strategic application of the energy that is generated from anything and everything that happens in your life.
Channel
It's a
it.
positive use or it's a negative use, but it must be used. You can't not, we can't get over it. We can't get past it.
And if we don't use it, it can do whatever. It just can manifest however if we're not focused and channeled on it. That's what I'm also hearing a little bit of as well.
That's exactly, and we've already seen that demonstrated. It can manifest in negative comments, can manifest in a drive-by shooting, can manifest in a fight, something destructive. It's supposed to be there for us to use. That's why the universe generated. That's why those guys generated that. Take that energy that they've given you and be okay with it and use it for the thing that you need to use it for.
Wow. Love it. Love it. Hey, again, I want to go back to this principle of imagination as defined by Napoleon Hill. And he says that there are two types of imagination. There's synthetic imagination, where we can either repurpose something that's already there, or we can combine things that are already there, but we're not really creating anything brand new. We're just repurposing something. And then there is creative imagination, where we get these hunches from the ether, from God. We don't know where, but we get this hunch, we get this inspiration. And most of the time we use synthetic imagination. Talk to me about a time when you got this inspiration, you got this hunch, you acted on it, but you don't necessarily know where that inspiration came from. It just came from your creative imagination. Has that ever happened?
Man, that's yes, it's a constant happening. And I live for that. I understand the synthetic imagination and how that works and how we take these particular pieces and just create or make something. I call it the making stage. We make something out of what is already here. But to create is an amazing thing. I think of soap, believe it or not, soap, vaccination, farming. These were things that were created. We didn't have those at the beginning of time. We did have these elements, but those things weren't there. There have been times, and I'm trying to think of very specific ones so that I can share with you, that I've had an ideal or concept. The most recent one was about music. And I really was truly thinking about the impact of music in our lives because of course, all the music that's going on and how we can change that and the concepts of it. Rhythm, the beat, the pace, and how those relate to how we live and how we practice our lives. So what I've begun to do is change that rhythm, those musicality portions into a concept that I can share with people so they can activate it as a process in their life. One thing Vincent Phipps told me a long time ago, and it stick with me today, is use everything you got. I step. I see that little Kappa Alpha thing back in the back. But I
you got me.
A member of Phi Beta Sigma, so I step. I sing. I write poetry. I think, and all of these components have to come together. And we can't be afraid. When you put your suit on, sometimes you feel like you have to again apply those laws that the world has applied. But if you close your eyes and remember who you are, then what happens during that particular time is the synthetic imagination is the foundation. And then all of a sudden, this creative light, this moment comes in a flash, and you get your pen, you get your paper, and you write it down. And guess what? You might not do anything with it for the next 7 years, but you've taken that particular flash and you've written it down because it is there for a purpose. I consider it to be a brainchild. Your brainchild was born on that particular day and it needs to be used and you need to do something with it, even though that might not be the day for it. But that's how I view the synthetic imagination with the creative. Again, I close my eyes. I utilize that flash. I write it down at a minimum. But to be honest, for most time, I'm working. I'm in that factory that I talked to you about, trying to figure out a way to crystallize that ideal and make it become something in the real world.
All right, there's another gem. Don't step over that gem. Donley said sometimes you gotta close your eyes and remember who you are. I love it. I love it. Ms. Ann, sitting over there politely with your hand raised. Come on in.
Yes. I have to do like the ladies in church, have to put that finger up in the air, wave it like I really do care. So, Donnelly, and first let me acknowledge Mr. Phipps again. I cannot say enough about the power of coaching and being willing to be in a mastermind group of peers. And from Donnelly 2.1, Donnelly 2.2 to Donnelly, I think it's 3.0 or whatever it is, a 5G.
That's right.
Yes, your growth has been phenomenal since the last time you were here. I know we're preparing to wrap up and talk about the annual meeting, but I literally can all see this at page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4 of notes. And one of the things is my takeaway that you said was you kept referring to the brainchild. And I wrote a note up underneath that. You just said it again about your process. And I want to ask everybody who's listening, as you've heard him today, ask yourself the question, is your brainchild stillborn? Is your brainchild stillborn? And naturally, my point is, you can use your imagination, but what are you doing with these ideas like he's suggesting? Because if you never act on them by at least writing them down, they're stillborn. Because oftentimes we know how the imagination comes in a flash, and if you can't act quick enough, it's gone. And you say, what was that again? Why did I walk into that room? Now, what was I trying to get? Just that quick is gone. So, Donnelly, I really want to share with you, have been such a blessing today. And literally, from the factory to the tapestry, and you started off right out the back saying, even if it's not on a conscious level, as you open your comments, and then you began to talk about stop using the eyes, use the eyesight. Use the insight rather than the eyesight. So I just want to thank you because I've gotten lots from your sharing today. And I think that the best compliment that we can give each other is a compliment to give each other to let us. Yes, absolutely. So I want to make sure we do that. And right now, Galen and Peter, if you want, we can go to share about the annual meeting. I just want to say this too, Donnelly, as you share, and we prepare to wrap up, everybody's not interested. Let's just be brutally honest. Can we all be honest with each other and our guests? Nobody cares about Think and Grow Rich. They really don't. Nobody cares about Napoleon Hill. Nobody cares about any one of us here today. The only thing that people are caring about is their desire. And the realization of that thought, that inspiration, that idea. This morning, as I was preparing for this, made me realize something that's shared in the book where it says, the most successful people realize that ideas can be sold when merchandise cannot. And we've all read that. Ideas can be sold where merchandise cannot. And so to me, what that looks like is this. Using your imagination, all of us that's here today, whether you're first time or second or third, what are your ideas that we can help you achieve through this platform that we come on every Saturday, regardless of what, through this International Mastermind Association annual meeting for your life. This is not a conference. This is for your life, where we provide an opportunity for you to bring your ideas to life. So I just want to make sure that I start switching how I share this concept, because it is not about the event. Let's make sure we're clear about that. It's not about the annual meeting. It is about iron sharpening iron. And DONLEY said it so eloquently in the beginning of the podcast when Mr. Vincent Phelps shared with him the idea of coming to this Black NSA space. When he got there, he said, hey, this is my tribe. I've found my tribe. Found my tribe. Found my tribe. Now, once he said that, he knew he was home. And so we want you all to join us at the annual meeting for the International Mastermind Association on January 3rd, 4th, 5th, if you will. Register by going to internationalmasterminders.com, internationalmasterminders.com. I had an opportunity this week to speak for Beatrice Lewis Saint at the Florida Minority Business Council annual meeting. And she said, Ann, please make sure you let everybody know who's always come to the annual meeting for IMA. Please make sure they register early because it will be sold out. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't believe her. She said, you need to bring 100 books, you know, your how to start and run a successful mastermind group. You need to bring this, we do this, because the annual meeting in January is going to be sold out. I want all of you to know I ran out of books. I want all of you to know that people signed up right on the spot. And so it is not about the annual meeting, it's about your life. And what is it that you desire in your spiritual, family, education, health, business, or your career, your recreation, creativity, and civic, these different areas of your life. Where is it written? So DONLEY and everybody else want to encourage you to join us in January on the 3rd and 4th. Register now. Bring your life in writing as you use your imagination. All right, back to you, Galen, and thank you everybody for joining. You're on mute, Galen.
Let's stay with you, Ann, right quick. How can people get a hold of you if they want to get some of this specific insight for them directed at their lives, or if they want to bring you in to talk to their association or their organization? How can people get a hold of you?
Well, I like to suggest, Galen, that first of all, people can start by text 59925, and I'm changing my name, 59925, and just text the word "Ann" in the chat. And that's one way to connect. But going to annmcneil.com is always a place where individuals can connect with me. But regardless, I would definitely say, without question or doubt, invest in my book entitled How to Start and Run a Successful Mastermind Group to start that imagination going.
Fantastic. Definitely a worthwhile investment. Definitely a worthwhile investment. Dr. Peter, what are some of your key insights and how can people get a hold of you?
Too many insights. I love that. First of all, DONLEY, this conversation with you has just been nothing but phenomenal, exquisite. I'm using all these imaginative words today. I'm ecstatic. You know, I could keep going on and on about how I'm feeling about this conversation. But really what I heard, especially about that question that I asked you about inundated from society and how we can, what I really heard from you is how we can channel that. We don't have to live like a hermit, but we can channel it to that sexual transmutation energy and apply it for our benefit. Because if we don't, it's going to do it on its own in ways that we may not desire.
Exactly.
So those of you who are watching, what does that look like for you as you are living your day-to-day life and thinking that, oh, it's not bothering me in any form or fashion? what I'm inundated, what I'm listening to, what I'm digesting, even the music we listen to, right? So thank you so much for that there, Donley. Hey, folks, my name is Dr. Peter A. James. You can find me at shiftyourmindset.com, peterajames.com, LinkedIn at Dr. Peter A. James. I'm the high performance coach trying to help you to shift your mindset and think a little bit differently, maybe even think like Donley a little bit. So, Galen, this has been a phenomenal show.
Absolutely. Well, Donnelly, bring us home, man. What are some final thoughts that you might have? You've shared so many gems. And then how can people get a hold of you and be a part of any programs that you might have coming up?
One final thought, and then I'll share that information, is regarding the brainchild. That's another thing I've been studying, really looking at. It is real. It is not a concept. It is an actual thing. It is a manifestation of an ideal that you must allow to either be born or either to let somebody else adopt it. But you cannot let it dissipate. You put it down, you write it down, and someone will come along that can execute that idea that you've had better than you can, and that's okay. Or there's an idea that you've birthed that you must execute. Do not waste those moments on all these other things. Utilize those particular things. I am the purpose connector. Right now, please join me if you'd like to for the next 52 weeks. In less than 52 seconds, I share with you a very practical example of how to put these processes into place so that way you can find your purpose. We've been doing it since the beginning of this year. It's in play. You can pick up at any time because they are individual and standalone concepts that you can put into practice. Later on this year, please feel free to join me in September. Well, I will have a seminar, an online seminar entitled The Radiant Quest for Clarity, the 7 days of discovery. During this time, what you will get from this particular venture is you will understand completely the problem that you solve and how to make money to solve it. You will get a complete self-assessment of who you are so that way you have some foundations to build on. Then you will get an actionable plan so that way you can start to pursue your purpose during this particular time. I am the purpose connector. And if you join me, you'll get these things. And if you don't, guess what? It's going to come around to you anyway. So you might as well join now.
I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh, what an incredible conversation, Donnelly. I've been aware of you, aware of you for years. You've been on the show a couple of times. You're always in the audience. You're always in the chat. But man, I tell you, I've experienced you differently today. And one of my key insights, I like the way Wyman Winbush, the wisdom broker, put it in the chat. He says, we must walk by faith and not by sight, especially if we're not vision impaired. And I love that stipulation. If we can see things, it's so easy to get distracted from our purpose. It's so easy to get distracted from what we're here to do. And I like the way Donnelly said it earlier. Sometimes, frequently, we've got to close our eyes and just remember who we are. So those were some of my key insights from this conversation. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist. You can find me on any platform by typing in my name. If you throw up a bat signal, I'll probably come running. But the most fun way to get a hold, the most profitable way, the most educational way to get a hold of me is to check out my podcast, Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership, on any podcast platform. We stream in 20 different countries. And I guarantee you're going to get something. We talk to leaders literally all over the world about the whiskeys they drink, the music they listen to, and what they believe it really takes to be an effective leader. A double dog dare you to try us at least once. Guarantee you that you will get something that will help you take at least one step from where you are a little bit closer to where you need to be. So join us each Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk through a principle of this classic book, Think and Grow Rich, written by Napoleon Hill. And we're just trying to help you get to where you really, really want to be. Until next time, take care.